Uncovering, exposing, getting results. The I-Team.
Now to an all-new I-Team investigation involving Florida children in crisis. The number of children hospitalized for an emergency psychiatric evaluation under what's called the Baker Act is rising at an alarming rate.
There are so many that 1 in 6 people being Baker Acted statewide is a child. Some kids are 10 years old and younger. I-Team investigator Lindsay Gardner found 2 local counties are seeing a sharp rise in this. Lindsay?
Yeah, Ken, we're talking about Clay County and Alachua County. And I found many of those calls to commit a child for these involuntary psychiatric evaluations are all coming from an unexpected place, school.
From the age of 10 to 16, I've been Baker Acted probably close to 20 times or so.
Adam Jackson battled hard to overcome bipolar disorder and ADHD in and out of 6 schools in Clay County as a teenager.
It got to the point where I figured out that there was only a few words that I needed to say to get a vacation, you know, and kind of not have to go worry about school. School was a really hard time for me.
So you actually looked at being Baker Acted as a vacation?
Yeah, because it was better than school. You know, it was better than me having to go to school, having the anxiety of being at school, having to deal with the teachers that I didn't like, having to deal with bullying.
In your experience being Baker Acted, were each of the incidents beneficial or were they harmful?
They were hit and miss.
Unfortunately, Jackson's story is not isolated. 1 in every 4 people being committed under the Baker Act in Clay County is a child under 18. That is one of the highest ratios statewide. It's a spike Kathy Lawrence is acutely aware of.
This year was the first time that I've seen it on paper, the exact numbers. And
it's alarming.
It is alarming. It is alarming. I work with some really sad teenagers. I tell them it's my job to try to make them happier.
Lawrence leads a nonprofit program for SEDNET for 600 severely emotionally disturbed children in Clay, Duval, and Nassau counties.
I think that the use of Baker Acts have increased with poor funding.
According to the most recent national report the I-Team could obtain, we found Florida ranks 49th out of 50 states in the country for mental health funding per person. It is a hole with ripple effects statewide. The I-Team looked further and found Clay County has seen a 38% increase in children being Baker Acted over a 5-year span. And that figure does take into account population growth. In Alachua County, that increase even higher, 54% more children being involuntarily committed with the population change taken into account. Compare those counties with Duval County, which saw an 8.3% increase. That includes a 12-year-old disabled student taken away in handcuffs from her Jacksonville charter school. She was held here at the Mental Health Resource Center near downtown for 4 long days away from her family. Her mother told me, quote, "It traumatized our entire family. It's now been a year and they still have trouble talking about it. But 4 separate medical professionals have told them what happened was unnecessary and horrific." It also includes the story of a 6-year-old boy taken away from his Jacksonville elementary school here to River Point Behavioral Health. According to a BuzzFeed News investigation in December, that boy's parents also did not consent, but still, it took 3 days for an attorney to get their son back home. We tried to also reach out to this family through their attorney, but we're told they are still too shaken up to talk further. The number of calls for children to be Baker Acted coming from local schools is also growing, according to this mental health annual report. In St. Johns County, 24%, or roughly 1 out of every 4 calls to Baker Acted child, starts at school. Clay County, 23%. Duval County was lower at 18%. Alachua County, 12%. But Lawrence says sometimes it's necessary.
I've had parents before who said, you know, I don't think my child's at risk. but the child's taken an overdose or has run out into traffic saying, "Kill me."
As if fighting bullying, social media, and existing mental health disorders aren't hard enough, now Lawrence faces challenges from popular culture, like copycats from the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why, which shows a teenage girl dealing with bullying by committing suicide and trying to seek revenge through tapes she left behind.
I've seen kids that have said that they're doing tapes to give out to kids, and they're talking about a suicide plan.
She's had to intervene and, yes, even Baker Act some teenagers. But she's hopeful with more guidance, love, and support, more children will overcome, like Jackson. At 27, he's now a father of 2, has a GED, and is employed, and works as a peer mentor and life coach to help more hurting kids get to the other side.
I know that Miss Lawrence likes to say that it's because of me and my hard work, but if she wasn't there, I'm pretty sure that I would either be dead or in prison. So the Kathy Lawrences of the world definitely need to step up and, let everybody know that they're there.
A brave man coming forward to share his very personal journey to put a face on this growing problem here in our area. Now, right now, I found State Senator Audrey Gibson helped to craft part of a bill that is sitting on the governor's desk right now. If it's signed, children would have to be evaluated within a 12-hour window instead of these 3-day, 72-hour holds. Also, this bill would create a new task force that would look at alternatives to the Baker Act for minors to make sure it is not being abused. In the studio, Lindsay Gardner, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Lindsay. Now, right now on news4jax.com, you can see Baker Act numbers county by county. You can see the increase year to year, and we've got a chart to show you just how many Baker Acts originated at a school. Just look for this story on the homepage of news4jax.com.
I-Team, number of children held under Baker Act growing. Rising number of orders originating at area schools without parents' say. By Lindsay Gardner, investigative reporter, Jody Mormon, managing editor of special projects, Eric Wallace, senior producer, I-Team. Posted, 5:27 p.m., June 20, 2017. Jacksonville, FLA. Is there a mental health crisis among Florida's children, or is a well-known law being used against them? The number of children hospitalized for an emergency and involuntary psychiatric evaluation, under a legal statute called the Baker Act, is rising at an alarming rate. The I-Team found 1 in 6 people being Baker Acted statewide is a child, some children just 10 years old, others even younger. The children are held for 72 hours and sometimes, their parents have no say. The I-Team found 2 local counties are seeing a large spike, Clay and Alachua counties. A significant number of those calls to commit a child for an involuntary psychiatric evaluation are coming from an unexpected place, school, leaving their parents with no say to stop it, once the school has made the call. Adam's story. When we were beginning our investigation, 27-year-old Adam Jackson bravely stepped forward to tell his very personal story that involves a lifelong struggle with mental health. The teenage years were pretty tough, said Jackson. From the age of 10 to 16, I had been Baker Acted close to 20 times or so. Jackson battled hard to overcome bipolar disorder and ADHD. He was in and out of 6 schools in Clay County as a teenager. It got to a point where I figured out there were only a few words I had to say and I could get a vacation and not have to worry about school. School was a really hard time for me, he explained. Asked if the experience of being placed in an involuntary psychiatric hold for 3 days was beneficial or harmful, Jackson answered, they were hit and miss. Sometimes taught me how to get away with certain things, other times when I was in crisis and definitely needed it, yes, it did help. By the numbers. Unfortunately, the I-Team found Jackson's story is not isolated. 1 in every 4 people being Baker-acted in Clay County is a child under 18, according to the latest report from the Baker Act Reporting Center at the University of South Florida. That's one of the highest ratios in the state of Florida. Clay County was ranked 9th out of 67 counties statewide in the report, which analyzed nearly 200,000 Baker Act examinations in the 2015 to 2016 fiscal year, as well as some data from prior years. It's a spike Kathy Lawrence is acutely aware of, as the leader of a nonprofit program called CEDNET, which serves 600 severely emotionally disturbed children in Clay, Duval, and Nassau counties. It's always been a big issue for us at CEDNET because we work directly with the Baker Act facilities, said Lawrence about the rising number of students being committed. In recent years, we saw the numbers in Clay County were growing. This year is the first year I've seen it on paper. It is alarming. It is alarming. I work with some sad teenagers. I tell them, it's my job to make them happier. Lawrence tells the I-Team she believes the increase in children and adults being committed involuntarily under the Baker Act is tied to a decrease in funding. I think that instead of trying to get a child in to see a psychiatrist to get medication, sometimes they end up getting Baker Acted before they can find an appointment out in the community, Lawrence explained. We are not represented well by psychiatrists, we need many more, especially child psychiatrists. Florida ranks 49th out of 50 states in the country for mental health funding per person according to the most recent national report the I-Team could find. It's a hole with ripple effects statewide. The I-Team looked further and found Clay County has seen a 38% increase in children being Baker Acted over a 5-year span, and that figure takes into account population growth. In Alachua County, the increase is even higher, with 54% more children being involuntarily committed, accounting for population change. Compare those counties with the highly populated Duval County, which saw an 8.3% increase in minors being committed over 5 years. Families traumatized. In Jacksonville, that includes a 12-year-old disabled girl being taken away in handcuffs from a local charter school. Her mother told the I-Team that despite being at the school and physically able to take her daughter home, the principal did not tell her what was happening. Instead, the school kept her locked away from her family for 4 hours before having her committed and taken away in handcuffs to the Mental Health Resource Center on West 20th Street. I was told that since this was an involuntary admission, I didn't have the right to take her home, the mother said. They took my 12-year-old, 76-pound daughter in handcuffs. This traumatized our entire family, and to be honest, we have not yet recovered fully from the impact of it. One thing that still puzzles this family is something she says the principal told her. One of the things that the principal reiterated to me a number of times that day was that the safety and protection of her students was her #1 priority, yet my daughter, who was also a student, deserved that same protection and did not get it. Since then, the family has seen 4 separate medical professionals who have told them what happened to their daughter was unnecessary and horrific. The I-Team found a similar story in Jacksonville involving a 6-year-old boy Baker Acted from his Jacksonville elementary school and taken to River Point Behavioral Health. According to a recent BuzzFeed News investigation, his parents also did not consent, but it took 3 days for an attorney to get the child back home. We tried to reach out to family members through their attorney, but we were told they are still too shaken up. The Baker Act report did not detail the history of involuntary examinations of St. Johns County because the county did not meet the threshold of 250 minors being committed in fiscal year 2015 to 2016. Percentage of Baker Act exams initiated at schools and the Baker Act. The I-Team looked further and found the number of calls for children to be Baker Acted coming from local schools is also growing, according to the report from the Baker Act Reporting Center. In St. Johns County, the report did outline that 24%, or roughly 1 out of every 4 calls to commit a minor is coming from school. These circumstances are similar to the stories above, meaning the parents can't stop the process once it's initiated by the school. In Clay County, 23% of the calls to commit children come from schools. Duval County had a lower percentage at 18%. Alachua County schools accounted for 12% of all calls to commit a minor. We're required, if there's a child that's saying they're going to commit suicide or hurt someone else, that we have to call someone in, Lawrence said. It's either the police or a licensed mental health professional that can come in and evaluate the child, and make the determination whether the child actually needs emergency treatment. But Lawrence said in her career experience, sometimes, it's necessary. I've had parents that said I don't think my child's at risk, but the child's taken an overdose or has run into traffic saying kill me, Lawrence said. She adds that each case is unique, and the choice is incredibly difficult. I would say that they are traumatizing for a child. The problem is that when you're looking at a life or death situation, where a child is threatening to hurt himself, taking them away from their family, putting them in a sterile environment, yes, that's traumatizing, but you have to look out for their personal safety as well. So it's never what we'd like, but it is necessary, Lawrence explained. As if fighting bullying, social media, and existing mental health disorders aren't hard enough, now Lawrence faces challenges from popular culture, like copycats from the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why, which shows a teenage girl dealing with bullying by committing suicide and trying to seeking revenge through tapes she left behind. I've seen kids that said they're starting to make tapes to give out to kids and they're talking about a suicide plan, Lawrence explained. She says that she has had to intervene, and even Baker acts some teens. Clay County is on top of this, and the new superintendent and the director of climate and culture, they are both very serious about getting this under control, she added. NEWS4JAX has reported the superintendent of Clay County Schools, Addison Davis, has sent letters home to parents to warn them about the Netflix series and also content on social media that seems to encourage suicide. Finding ways to help. Lawrence works hard and is hopeful with more guidance, love, and support, more children will overcome just like Jackson. As a community, we need to stop blaming these children. Children are growing up in a very busy society, people are overlooking them. We have a lot of throwaway children nobody really wants. We have a huge amount of children not living with their parents, they're living with grandparents, great-grandparents, relatives, or anyone that will take them. That may make them feel like they're not wanted. Many of them have been abused or have experienced trauma, and those are the things we have to look at, Lawrence explained. As for Jackson, he is now a father of 2, has a kid, is employed, and volunteers as a peer mentor and life coach to help more hurting kids get to the other side. I know Ms. Lawrence likes to say it's because of me and my hard work, but I'm pretty sure without her, I'd either be dead or in prison, said Jackson. So, the people like the Kathy Lawrences of the world need to step up and let people know they are there. Baker Act changes awaiting action. The Florida legislature has sought to amend the Baker Act, which was first passed in 1971. During the 2017 legislative session, Jacksonville Area State Senator Audrey Gibson supported changes to the Baker Act which were included in a broader child welfare bill. Read, House Bill 1121 proposed Baker Act changes. Her proposed changes would create a new task force overseen by the Department of Children and Families with numerous state agencies to figure out alternatives for minors other than Baker acting them, and make sure the Baker Act wasn't being abused. The bill would also mandate that a minor be evaluated within the first 12 hours after commitment. The bill was presented to Florida Governor Rick Scott on June 14 and he has until June 29 to sign it or otherwise act on it. Facility under investigation. The I-Team has confirmed the company that owns Riverpoint Behavioral Health in Jacksonville, Florida, is currently under investigation by the Department of Justice's Fraud Division. At issue and currently under criminal investigation is if UHS billed Medicaid and Medicare fraudulently for treatments. Riverpoint Behavioral Health is one of 3 facilities owned by UHS that is part of the criminal inquiry that has already had funding cut off. Locally, UHS also owns and operates Wekiva Springs in Jacksonville and St. Simons by the Sea in St. Simons, Georgia, which are also included in the federal criminal probe. Copyright 2017 by WJXTNEWS4JAX, all rights reserved.
Hey, Sheriff, we have a question about why your office, your intelligence division, is investigating private citizens for criminal investigation that happen to be activists that are overseeing your department. Why would you have your intelligence division investigate private citizens? We have done... Sir, we don't hate anyone. We love freedom and we love American people. And government is out of control. That's why you're seeing such a revolt nationwide. Why can't you just answer, why is Susan Edwards, your intelligence division, investigating private citizens? This should not happen.
Are you here to apply for a job?
Possibly I might be applying for a job, but that's irrelevant to my question. Why would you ask that question?
Well, enjoy the fair.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Excuse you?
Excuse me, sir.
So those of you that haven't
Wow.
been on a bike before,
Sheriff's getting a little too pushy. You work for us, Sheriff. Just keep that in mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.